man crew. um, the Immortal Wars 2, though, jumped up. My cast from part 1 was 15, and it jumped up to a 50, almost 60 cast actors in the film. Crew also doubled. It was some days we had over 20, some days we had less than 10. It just kind of varies on what scenes, what shots, what locations we're going to be at. So it's always different. Yeah, it's always different.
Well, on the last couple movies, can you kind of tell us a bit about the, take us like what is involved for you to make it, and a little bit maybe about a scene. I mean, like what's going on. I mean, the content. I mean, just to give the audience, a little idea what's involved here.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'll explain a more in-depth, intricate production day. We had one of our biggest sets, one of our biggest scenes, I should say, is a big desert fight scene where we have literally 30 actors fighting all at the same time for this scene in the Immortal Wars 2. The day starts off, obviously, I have my AD who's already scheduled everyone in, gives everyone their call times. Crew is always before cast. So, the crew and myself will show up. We'll kind of scout the location, look at where we're going to be filming. We start kind of deciding where's our home base going to be, so that when the actors show up, they already are going to be heading to home base, and they're there till where they're needed on set. Makeup will start taking place at that point, as well as wardrobe, any props that are needed. All that's taking place and happening simultaneously, all at the same time at home base. Well, me, my DP, my director of photography, my AD, and crew member are actually on the set, setting up our shots, making sure we're going to get ready for them. Keep in mind, this is also in the desert. It is in Nevada. It is 100 degrees outside, so we're constantly making sure the cast is okay.
Well, if it's only 100 degrees, now if it's only 100 degrees in Nevada, when are you filming? Early May? Because I tell you,
we filmed in September, October time. It's really hot, and especially in Las Vegas. It's really, really hot.
So I can tell you that every year, except for last year and this year, I've got on my motorcycle. I live up near Tacoma, Washington, in a little town called Gig Harbor, Washington. I get on my motorcycle with one of my kids, and we decide we're going to go to Reno and then Las Vegas and see my daughter in Hemet, California. But I have to cross 2 deserts, and one year I didn't have enough water, and it was like about the 20th of May, and it was pushing 115 degrees. And I started seeing these rattlesnakes, not one or two crossing the road. I saw hundreds of rattlesnakes, and then that's when I decided to pull over. I barely got off the bike without passing out. And, then I started looking. I didn't have no water. And my one son had half a bottle of root beer, and he said, "Here, drink that." Thank God a car pulled over and to see what was wrong and had water, because I tell you, I was hallucinating like you wouldn't believe in that heat.
Yeah, it gets really, really hot. Really, really, really hot. And that's something that we have to constantly, especially in Las Vegas, you have to be on top of. Also keeping in mind that these actors, the costumes that I've designed, because I also design my own costumes for the films. I get involved with every creative part of the film. I have a lot of my actors fighting in black leather. They're fighting in black leather in the desert and in this scorching heat. So
now, hopefully they're putting talcum powder on inside that leather before they're putting it on. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, it was very, very tough. That day of production was very tough, especially because we're also going to be fighting in the scenes and making sure, you don't want actors to be running into camera. So production on that day was just a very well planned out, intricate day, from the cast to the crew to costumes, everything, just because we were fighting against the elements and we were trying to make everything look as best as we could, which did. Everything looked great. But yeah, no, the heat is a constant challenge, especially if you're shooting outside. Definitely. Yeah.
Did you ever have people like when you're filming, they kind of like stop and just stare at it or anything like that? I see. The reason why I say that James Gardner. Remember the old TV show Rockford Files?
I don't remember
he was a
that,
he was a private detective, mid '70s or early '80s, and I guess he made about 4 or 5 movies on the Rockford Files. But they would be filming on the streets a lot of the time, and I knew him. We were friends, and I can say this: he said that they would have a lot of times problems with people, just getting involved by walking into the scene or just staring or making the actors nervous or upset or things like that.
No, now that you mention and talk about that, we did have that happen a few times, but believe it or not, that's what I loved about the cast. It kind of fueled them. It gave them this energy of like, we're being watched, we need to outdo ourselves, we really need to push ourselves, and it kind of gave them this like confidence. And they would, I could tell. I was like, oh, they're really kicking butt because they have an audience right now, and it looks so good on camera, and it plays well on camera. So yeah, we did, but not to the point where we have to tell people, can you leave? Like, you guys are in our shot. I haven't had to deal with that just yet.
Well,
not yet.
The one business I managed was a chain of camera stores for professionals in Tacoma. They were actually filming when they rebooted the TV show, The Fugitive. The first one was on, back in the 60s, and then they rebooted the other one in the late 90s, early 2000s. And a lot of that was filmed in Tacoma because the post office above it was the old federal court building, and it was still intact, so they would do a lot of filming in there. I remember they did a scene in front of the business, and like an idiot, I didn't think anything of it, and I was really rude. I went and grabbed a camera and put a telephoto on it and started, taking pictures. And it didn't take long of the star of the, the show, the series. The next thing I know, the director and the producers, assistants were all over the business yelling at me, and it wasn't good. But the good point is, after a while, they wanted to look at my pictures. They were impressed. They offered me a job to be the photographer for the show for still. Then I got all excited. I gave my notice. I was a general manager. I gave my notice I was quitting. My wife is excited because it was a lot of money. Guess what? I get a phone call from the producer about a week later that the show was canceled. So that was the end of my career.
Oh, that sucks. Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, well, what can I say? It wasn't in the cards, but I was excited for a while. But I tell you, he was really upset of me taking pictures. So, it really offended, the actor and I guess some of the other actors I was doing that.
Wow. Yeah, no. And you know what? That happens a lot. I have a few friends who are also directors and filmmakers. But I think a lot, and I've seen it a lot, is a lot of independent artists, they let their fears almost take over what they're doing, and they kind of get discouraged, I guess you can say. And they kind of stop production. They'll be like, you know what, production's canceled. I can't do it. And it's kind of like, ooh, I could never start something and not finish it. It would hurt me too much.
Oh, yeah. So can you, like on a couple of these movies, can you tell us a little bit about the movies itself? I mean, what was the plot on the movie? A little bit of some of the scenes involved in the movie?
Yeah. So for, do you want me to go for like one of the horror films, or you want me to go for the Immortal Wars? Which would you prefer? Would you want me to go for more of the horror stuff?
Okay.
Yeah, I guess let's go for Rust. I'll do Rust.
Okay, let's do that one.
Rust. Yeah, we'll do Rust. Rust is, like I said, this one's going to be short, so I'll probably do another one after this. Rust is very Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is based on a true story, so it's kind of a group of friends who are going to an abandoned haunt attraction, and they go in they have this whole like, oh, they say it's haunted, let's go see, stuff that when we were younger. I know when I was younger, I would always do this with my friends and my siblings. We would hear it's haunted, like, oh, let's go see if we could catch something or see something. So they go and do that. But what they don't know is that there's this cannibalistic killer who lives within the haunt. And the haunt itself, the haunted house, is a character in itself in the film. The killer knows the trapdoors, he knows secret passageways, and he's basically it's a very cat and mouse type of story, where he chases the victims, and the victims get away, and then they split up, and then he kind of makes his way to each character one by one and starts hunting them down one by one. So that's Rust. It's a pretty fun film. People have really liked the whole cat and mouse take on the story. Now, with Telephobia, it's a little different. Like I said, it is based off of experiences from my past. But this one focuses on a group of pageant queen girls who are all about their looks and all about beauty. But they bully this one particular person to the point where this character snaps. And she basically captures all these girls and makes them play a game of life or death. They then have to choose to live their life imperfect or kill themselves in the story.
Oh, wow.
And I focused a lot on how vain these girls are, that a lot of them are like, I'm not living this life ugly, just kill me. Like, I would prefer being dead than have to live ugly. I did focus a lot on that. These girls are very vain. So that's what a Telephobia focuses on. A lot of the bullying aspects and the consequences for harming others, verbally, physically. It's a case of learning, type of lesson to be learned type of story. Now, for the sequel of a Telephobia, it's a completely different sequel. It's more a group of fans of the first Telephobia are so obsessed with the film that they want to make a real-life sequel. So they capture the entire cast of Part 1, as well as the director, myself, and they make us play a game of life or death, and they film every second of our torturing, and they make a real-life sequel.
Wow. Kind of like Saw type of situation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun type of concept, a Telephobia 2. It's different. It's not your typical horror film. Now, the sequels do follow. The next installments do follow these installments. Rust 3 does pick up right where the second one left off. The killer finds, he connects back with the lead girls and continues that whole cat and mouse type of story. But for Telephobia 3, Chapter 3 picks up right at the end of Part 1. So it continues with the story of the first Telephobia, as if the second one does not exist in the timeline.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I kind of jumped around on that one a little bit. Yeah, but then, like, my most recent, The Immortal Wars, like I said, that one's sci-fi action. That one, it's pretty long, so I'll shorten it. Basically, it's set in the future. The world is split up in sectors. The United States sector is the biggest sector and the most powerful sector of them all. Each sector has a sector leader, which Eric Roberts plays the United States sector leader, Dominion Harvey, who is the main villain in the film. And basically, humans have captured what they call deviants. Deviants are people with special abilities. And they capture them and they make them fight to the death on live television for sports. And they treat it like the Super Bowl. So people are throwing parties, people are betting money. The sector leaders have their own little thing where they're kind of placing bets and they're playing along with the game too. And it's all being televised to the world. These innocent deviants fighting to the death. And there's one main character named Tricalypse who does not want to fight, but she is little by little throughout the film, she's pushed to the edge to where she will defend herself if she needs to.